it's very important to appreciate that MTBI rarely exists alone. With comorbid symptoms, all the cognitive functioning worsens. So we are aware of the post-concussive syndromes, but it's also important to appreciate that pain, sleep, headache, existential wound, that is, what's going on with my life right now, all contribute. And it's very hard for an untrained clinician, and often even for the trained clinician, to separate the physical or the functional problems due to physical injury from the more psychological and other comorbid factors that are impacting on that declined function. It's also important to appreciate that treating these comorbid functions can reduce many of the symptoms that we see from traumatic brain injury and improve overall functioning. Comorbidities, of course, include, as I mentioned, PTSD, and we can distinguish. It's really interesting. I mean, you could easily imagine a graph with the same symptoms presenting for both PTSD and MTBI on a number of different factors, but they look different depending on whether it's PTSD or MTBI. So let me just mention one or two of these. PTSD has fear avoidance, but MTBI has avoidance of cognitive load due to exhaustion. That is, someone with PTSD has no limit in their capacity to worry and to be obsessively worried about things that maybe happened in the past or maybe faced in the future. But that's more of a fear avoidance, trying to stay away from those activities. Whereas in MTBI, they don't want to do certain tasks like balance their checkbook, do taxes. I mean, none of us really do. But they can't do that. And so they'll find ways to avoid functions that require increased cognitive effort. Pain is also very draining on someone. That could be headache or peripheral neurological pain. Insomnia. With MTBI, there can be too much sleep, or there could be too little, or a combination of the two. Someone could be sleeping a lot but not reach deep delta sleep, stage 3-4 sleep. There can be a lot of daytime fatigue, but in PTSD, there tends to be more nightmares and fear of going to sleep, because that's when the intrusive thoughts often come. And you don't see that in more pure, if there is such a thing, MTBI. Substance abuse, which is comorbid with all stress disorders, and having a TBI is, of course, very stressful. And it could also be a way to self-medicate, to numb the pain, numb the confusion, feel more comfortable. Mood, we see in PTSD and other combat and other related stresses, even if it's not combat related. We see depression and anger, family abuse, anxiety. We see this more constant in PTSD, but we see the same type of emotions a little bit more labile, coming and going without any reasonable external stimuli in MTBI. You could cry at a Charmin commercial and then get very upset with someone for just walking in the room. And there's some of that with PTSD, but seems to be more of that with MTBI. And social detachment. It's just too exhausting to interact with people. Now, with a little bit more moderate TBI, you also see some flattening of affect. But with mild TBI, you see more lability. And of course, there's many other symptoms